The text sliced through my phone like a knife through silk. You're dead to us. Don't show your face at Azure Haven. We're done with your pathetic crusades. My mother, Cecilia Hartwell, had a gift for cruelty, but this was a masterpiece of venom. 3 days before Thanksgiving, and she'd chosen to disown me with a single message, each word a shard of glass lodging in my chest. I sat in my office, perched 30 stories above Malibu's jagged cliffs, the Pacific Ocean a restless expanse of silver and blue beyond the glass walls. Below, Azure Haven Resort glittered like a mirage, its private beaches dotted with A-listers, its infinity pools shimmering under the California sun, its sleek villas a sanctuary for the elite. For 25 years, my family had claimed it as their Thanksgiving pilgrimage, their sacred escape. They had no idea it was mine. The irony might have been delicious if my heart wasn't splintering. Another buzz. My brother, Charles. We're at Azure Haven tomorrow. At least we have our place, unlike you scraping by with your charity nonsense. His smugness oozed through the screen, a reminder of every condescending smirk he'd thrown my way since we were kids. Then, a notification pinged. Instagram. My sister Isabel had posted a video, already viral with thousands of likes. I'd clicked, and there she was, her blonde curls bouncing, her lips curled in a mocking pout. Poor Amelia, she cooed, spending Thanksgiving alone while we're living it up at Azure Haven. Maybe she can knit blankets for her homeless friends. The comments erupted. Savage. What a loser. My face burned, the humiliation of public flogging orchestrated by my own blood. I leaned back in my leather chair, the weight of Hartwell Global Ventures, my $10 billion 0-cents hospitality empire, pressing against the secret I'd guarded for years. I wasn't the bleeding heart failure they mocked. I was the CEO who'd built 20 luxury resorts across 3 continents, funneling half the profits into programs that changed lives. Azure Haven wasn't just a resort. It was the heart of my Horizon initiative, a covert operation training at-risk individuals, former addicts, homeless veterans, single mothers, for jobs that gave them a second chance. My family, sipping $500 0-cents champagne in their beachfront villas, never noticed the staff included people they'd cross the street to avoid. They were too busy basking in their privilege. Another buzz. A photo from Isabel. The Hartwells in their Greenwich mansion, packing Louis Vuitton luggage for their annual pilgrimage. Her caption, "Paradise awaits the successful. Sorry, Amelia." I stared at the image. My father, Edward, his Wall Street scowl etched deep. Cecilia, her pearls gleaming like armor. Charles, smirking like he owned the world. Isabel, posing like a Vogue cover. They thought they'd won. They thought I was nothing. I wasn't nothing. I was the one who'd bought Azure Haven last year, with a silent loan from my exiled aunt, Eleanor Prescott, the one who'd turned it into a beacon of sustainable luxury, cutting costs by 30% with eco-friendly designs. The one who'd launched the Horizon Initiative, transforming 500 lives while my family mocked my charity nonsense. They'd underestimated me since I was 16, when I first dared to care about people they deemed beneath them. My desk phone hummed. "Ms. Hartwell, it's Lucas," my COO said, his voice tight. "The Hartwell family's booking is confirmed for tomorrow. Beachfront villas, full amenities as always, but there's something else." He paused. Claire Donovan was seen on property. Security flagged her. Claire, my former best friend, now a corporate viper with a vendetta. She'd been circling my empire for months, whispering to competitors, digging for weaknesses. Last week I'd caught her rifling through resort files, her eyes glinting with malice. Whatever she was planning, it was dangerous. "Pull the booking records," I said, my voice steady despite the storm in my gut. "And get me everything we have on Claire's movements." "Already done," Lucas replied. "The Hartwell's reservation is locked in, permanent status, like always. Claire, We think she's meeting someone tonight. Possibly a board member? A board member. My stomach twisted. Claire knew too much about my empire, my secrets, my family. If she was scheming with one of my own board, it could mean sabotage, or worse. I hung up and stared at Cecilia's text again. You're dead to us. 25 years of their disdain flooded back. Last Thanksgiving, when Edward tore my proposal for addiction recovery centers to shreds, calling it a disgrace to the Hartwell legacy. Isabel's sneer. You're no Hartwell. Maybe you belong on the streets with your charity cases. Charles's smirk. Let her waste her life on lost causes. They'd laughed as I stood there, my ideas dismissed, my worth reduced to nothing. I wasn't nothing. I'd built Hartwell Global from the ground up, hiding my success behind a non-profit facade to keep them from interfering. Eleanor, banished for her own philanthropy, had seen my potential. She'd loaned me the capital to buy Azure Haven, mentoring me to blend profit with purpose. Now, my resorts generated $2 billion, 0 cents a year, and my programs had given hope to hundreds. They thought I was scraping by. They were wrong. Another buzz. Isabel just packed my Chanel bikini. Azure Haven won't know what hit it. Her arrogance lit a fuse in me. I picked up the phone. Lucas, cancel the Hartwell reservation, all of it. Villas, amenities, everything. Silence. Then, Amelia, they've been coming here for 25 years. They're our most high-profile guests. The PR fallout? I'm the CEO, I snapped. Cancel it. I'll handle the rest. Yes, ma'am, he said, but I heard the doubt in his voice. I leaned forward, my fingers hovering over Cecilia's text thread. Was I really doing this? Upending a quarter-century tradition? Risking a public feud that could tank my company's stock? A notification popped up. A tabloid headline. Hartwell heiress Amelia. Charity fraud or family feud. Claire's work, no doubt. She was moving fast, planting lies to discredit me. My phone rang. Edward. I let it go to voicemail. His message boomed. The manager says the owner canceled our booking. A woman, who is she, will sue for breach of contract. His voice trembled with rage, but there was something else. Fear. I typed. The owner did cancel. Permanently. Since last year, when I bought Azure Haven, I attached a photo of the ownership deed and hit send. Silence. Then my phone erupted. Isabel, you're lying. You're broke. Charles, this is a stunt. Stop embarrassing us. Cecilia, this is impossible. You work at some failing nonprofit. I laughed, the sound bitter in the empty office. They still thought I was the naive dreamer they'd mocked for years. They had no idea I'd built an empire under their noses, that Azure Haven was just one piece of a global puzzle, that their sacred retreat was mine to command. The door burst open, Lucas, his face pale. Amelia, we've got a problem. The cliffside pathway. It's been tampered with. One of the security guys nearly went over the edge, and we found Claire's fingerprints on the tools. My blood ran cold. The pathway, a scenic trail for guests, hugged the cliffs 50 feet above the ocean. A fall would be fatal. Claire wasn't just playing dirty. She was trying to kill me. Lock down the resort, I said, standing, and get me to that pathway. Now. As I grabbed my jacket, my phone buzzed again. Charles. I found a deed fragment linking you to Azure Haven. Reinstate our booking or I go public. Blackmail. My own brother. I stepped into the elevator, the glass walls reflecting my face. Calm, controlled, but inside, a fire roared. Claire's sabotage, my family's betrayal, the looming takeover bid from a rival tycoon. It was all closing in. But I wasn't the girl they'd dismissed anymore. I was Amelia Hartwell, and I'd built an empire on their blindness. Tonight, I'd walk that cliffside path. Tomorrow I'd face my family, and by Thanksgiving they'd learn what paradise really cost. The wind whipped my hair as I stepped onto the cliffside pathway, the ocean roaring below like a beast waiting to swallow me whole. Lucas trailed behind, his flashlight cutting through the dusk. The trail was a guest favorite, winding along the cliffs with panoramic views of Malibu's coastline. It was also a death trap if tampered with. The guardrail, usually sturdy steel, sagged in one section. Bolts loosened, wood splintered. I crouched, my fingers brushing the jagged edges. Claire's work. Her fingerprints were a calling card, a taunt. She knew I'd be here tonight, I said, my voice low. I always check the grounds before the holiday rush. Lucas's jaw tightened. We've got security sweeping the resort, but Amelia, if she's targeting you... She's not just targeting me, I cut in. She's after Hartwell Global. Azure Haven is the flagship. If it falls, the whole empire takes a hit. I stood, the wind stinging my face. Claire and I had been inseparable in college, two ambitious women dreaming of changing the world. But while I built my vision, she chased power, clawing her way into corporate espionage. Last year, she'd begged for a job at Hartwell Global. I'd refused, sensing her hunger wasn't for purpose, but for control. Now she was a predator, and I was her prey. My phone buzzed. A new email from an anonymous source. Check your servers. You're not as secure as you think. My pulse spiked. A data breach. Claire's allies were moving faster than I'd anticipated. Hartwell Global's servers held everything: financials, guest records, and the Horizon Initiative's confidential files. If those leaked, my secret ownership would be exposed, and the lives we'd rebuilt could be destroyed. Lucas, get IT on this, I said, forwarding the email. Tell them to lock down the servers, now. He nodded, already dialing. I turned back to the pathway, my flashlight sweeping the ground. A glint caught my eye. A tiny camera, hidden in the rocks. Claire wasn't just sabotaging the trail, she was watching, recording, building a case to frame me. For what? Embezzlement? Negligence? I ripped the camera free, crushing it under my heel. She's not getting away with this. Back at the office, the clock ticked past midnight. My team scrambled to secure the servers, but the hackers were relentless, probing for weaknesses. IT reported a breach attempt, narrowly thwarted, but a warning of worse to come. Meanwhile, Claire's tabloid leak had exploded online, painting me as a shady heiress hiding behind a charity facade. My board was restless, demanding an emergency meeting, and Charles's blackmail loomed, his deed fragment a ticking bomb. I sank into my chair, the weight of it all pressing down, but then I remembered Eleanor. My aunt, ostracized for daring to care, had faced worse. She'd been cut off, slandered, erased from the Hartwell legacy. Yet she'd risen, building a quiet empire of her own, and she'd believed in me when no one else did. Her voice echoed in my mind. They'll try to break you, Amelia. Don't let them. You're stronger than their pride. I opened my laptop and pulled up the Horizon Initiative's files. Photos of graduates, men and women, who'd gone from despair to dignity, a single mother now managing a villa, a veteran running our security team, a former addict training as a chef. This was why I'd fought, not for revenge, but for redemption. For them. For me. The phone rang. Lucas. Amelia? The board's calling for you. They want answers about the takeover bid, and Claire's been spotted again. She's with Victor Kane. Victor Kane. The rival tycoon who'd been circling Azure Haven for months, his conglomerate a vulture waiting to pick my empire apart. Claire was his pawn, feeding him intel to fuel a hostile takeover. If they succeeded, Azure Haven would be gutted, its programs erased, its purpose reduced to profit. Set up the board meeting for dawn, I said, and put a tail on Claire. I want to know every move she makes. I hung up and stared at Charles's text. Reinstate our booking, or I go public. He thought he had me cornered. He didn't know I held the deed, the contracts, the power. But using it meant exposing myself, not just to my family, but to the world. The tabloids would feast, the board would question my judgment, the stock could plummet. I typed a response. Go ahead, Charles, publish it, see what happens. Bluff or not, I was done bowing to their threats. Dawn broke over Malibu, the cliffs glowing gold. The boardroom was a battlefield, 12 suits staring me down across a mahogany table. Victor Kane's takeover bid had leaked, and the numbers were brutal. $12 billion, 0 cents. A premium they couldn't ignore. My CFO, Rachel, slid a report across the table. Amelia, the shareholders are spooked. Kane's painting us as unstable. The tabloid rumors aren't helping. I stood, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Kane wants Azure Haven because it's the heart of our brand. He doesn't care about our programs, our people. He'll strip it for parts we're not selling. The board member Grayson leaned forward, his eyes sharp. And the rumors? Charity fraud? Secret ownership? What are you hiding, Amelia? The room stilled. They didn't know about my family, my past, the Horizon Initiative's true scope. I could lie, keep the facade, but Claire's leaks were closing that door. I took a breath. I own Azure Haven. I bought it last year anonymously to protect it from vultures like Kane. The charity work isn't fraud, it's the Horizon Initiative, a program that's transformed 500 lives while boosting our profits by 40%. You want proof? I'll show you. I nodded to Lucas, who distributed dossiers, financials, impact reports, testimonials. The board flipped through, their skepticism shifting to shock. Rachel's eyes widened. $2 billion? 0 cents in annual revenue? Amelia, why hide this? Because not everyone values purpose over profit, I said, my voice steady. But I do, and if you trust me, we'll beat Kane. Grayson hesitated, then nodded. You've got 48 hours to stabilize the stock, prove you're in control. I left the boardroom, my pulse racing. I'd bought time, but the clock was ticking. Claire was still out there. Charles's blackmail hung over me, and the hackers were circling. And then, as I stepped into my office, the door flew open. My family. Edward stormed in, his face red. What the hell are you playing at, Amelia? Canceling our booking? Sending fake deeds? Cecilia followed, her pearls clacking. This is madness. You can't own Azure Haven. You're a nobody. Isabel smirked, scrolling her phone. Nice try, sis. Twitter's already calling you a fraud. Charles lingered by the door, his eyes cold. Restate the booking, or I leak the deed fragment. You'll be finished. I faced them, the years of their cruelty fueling me. You want to know the truth? I bought Azure Haven. I own it, and I canceled your booking because I'm done with your poison. Edward laughed, harsh and disbelieving. You? With what money? Your little nonprofit? I pressed a button on my desk. Lucas entered with a thick folder, handing copies to each of them. Hartwell Global Ventures, I said. 20 resorts, $10 billion, 0 cents in assets, 500 lives changed. Read it. They flipped through, their faces paling. Cecilia sank into a chair, her facade cracking. You lied to us. You let us think you were nothing. You made me an outsider, I shot back. I built this to prove you wrong. Edward's voice shook. This is impossible. You're nobody. A screen flickered to life. Eleanor Prescott, my aunt, smiled from a video call. Hello, Edward. Surprised? I helped Amelia buy Azure Haven. She's everything you're not? Edward flinched, the ghost of his sister's exile haunting him. Claire's shadow loomed too. She leaked the confrontation to the press, framing me as a vindictive daughter. I had to act fast. Join Thanksgiving tomorrow. I said, meeting their eyes, not as elites, but as equals. See what Azure Haven really stands for. Or don't. Your choice. They left, shaken, their pride in tatters. I turned to Lucas. Find Claire. End this. Thanksgiving dawned, and Azure Haven buzzed with life, guests, staff, and Horizon Initiative graduates sharing the feast. My family arrived, not in their usual limos but in rentals, their arrogance gone. Edward listened to a veteran's story, his stoic mask cracking. Isabel, moved by a young mother, offered to promote the initiative online. Charles volunteered to manage a community fund. Cecilia, tears falling, whispered, "We were blind. You're the best of us." Claire's sabotage unraveled. She was arrested for corporate espionage, her allies exposed. Eleanor's voice rang through a final call. "You've redefined the Hartwell name." To a journalist, I said, "Revenge doesn't heal, transformation does." Azure Haven thrived, a beacon of purpose, and my family, humbled, joined the mission. Paradise wasn't lost. It was reborn. Dawn broke over Malibu, the cliffs glowing gold. The boardroom was a battlefield, 12 suits staring me down across a mahogany table. Victor Kane's takeover bid had leaked $12 billion, 0 cents, a premium they couldn't ignore. My CFO, Rachel, slid a report across the table. "Amelia, the shareholders are spooked. Kane's painting us as unstable. The tabloid rumors aren't helping." I stood, heels clicking on marble. "Kane wants Azure Haven because it's our heart. He doesn't care about our programs, our people. He'll strip it for parts. We're not selling." Grayson, a board member, leaned forward, eyes sharp. "And the rumors? Charity fraud? Secret ownership? What are you hiding?" The room stilled. They didn't know about my family, my past, the Horizon Initiative's scope. I could lie, keep the facade, but Claire's leaks were closing that door. I took a breath. "I own Azure Haven. I bought it last year, anonymously, to protect it from vultures like Kane. The charity work isn't fraud, it's the Horizon Initiative. Transforming 500 lives while boosting profits by 40%. Want proof? I'll show you." I nodded to Lucas, who distributed dossiers, financials, impact reports, testimonials. The board flipped through, skepticism shifting to shock. Rachel's eyes widened. $2 billion? 0 cents in revenue? Amelia, why hide this? "Because not everyone values purpose over profit," I said. "But I do. Trust me, and we'll beat Kane." Grayson nodded. "You've got 48 hours to stabilize the stock. Prove you're in control." I left the boardroom, pulse racing. I'd bought time, but the clock was ticking. Claire was out there, Charles's blackmail hung over me, and the hackers were circling. Then the door flew open. My family. Edward stormed in, face red. "What the hell are you playing at, Amelia? Canceling our booking? Sending fake deeds?" Cecilia followed, pearls clacking. "This is madness. You can't own Azure Haven. You're a nobody." Isabel smirked, scrolling her phone. "Nice try, sis. Twitter's calling you a fraud." Charles lingered, eyes cold. "Reinstate the booking, or I leak the deed fragment. You'll be finished." I faced them, years of cruelty fueling me. "You want the truth. I bought Azure Haven. I own it. And I canceled your booking because I'm done with your poison." Edward laughed, harsh. "You? With what money, your little non-profit?" I pressed a button. Lucas handed them folders. "Hartwell Global Ventures," I said. 20 resorts, $10 billion, 0 cents in assets, 500 lives changed. Read it. They flipped through, faces paling. Cecilia sank into a chair, facade cracking. "You lied. You let us think you were nothing. You made me an outsider," I shot back. I built this to prove you wrong." Edward's voice shook. "This is impossible." A screen flickered. Eleanor Prescott smiled via video. "Hello, Edward. I helped Amelia buy Azure Haven. She's everything you're not." Edward flinched, his sister's exile haunting him. Claire's shadow loomed. She'd leaked the confrontation, framing me as vindictive. I had to act. "Just join Thanksgiving tomorrow," I said. "Not as elites, but as equals. See what Azure Haven stands for. Or don't. Your choice." They left, shaken, pride in tatters. I turned to Lucas. "Find Claire. End this." Thanksgiving dawned and Azure Haven buzzed, guests, staff, and Horizon Initiative graduates sharing a feast. My family arrived, not in limos, but rentals, arrogance gone. Edward listened to a veteran's story, his stoic mask cracking. Isabel, moved by a young mother, offered to promote the initiative online. Charles volunteered to manage a community fund. Cecilia, tears falling, whispered, "We were blind. You're the best of us." Claire's sabotage unraveled. She was arrested for espionage, her allies exposed. Eleanor's voice rang through, "You've redefined the Hartwell name." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting Azure Haven's cliffs in hues of fire, I stood on my office balcony, the ocean's rhythm steadying my heart. The Thanksgiving feast continued below, laughter and stories rising like a tide. My family, once my tormentors, had taken their first steps toward redemption, their eyes opened to a world beyond their privilege. But I knew this was only the beginning. Claire's arrest had neutralized one threat, but Victor Kane's shadow lingered, his takeover bid a storm on the horizon. The hackers were still out there and the board's trust was fragile. My empire, built on purpose, stood at a crossroads. I thought of Eleanor, her unwavering belief in me, and the 500 lives we'd changed. This wasn't about revenge. It never had been. It was about transformation, about proving that success could mean more than money or status. I'd shown my family what paradise could be, not a playground for the elite, but a beacon for those who dared to rise. As I turned back to my office, my phone buzzed. A new message, anonymous. "You've won this round, Hartwell, but the game's not over." A chill ran through me, but I smiled. Let them come. I was Amelia Hartwell, and I'd built an empire on their blindness. Whatever came next, I'd face it with fire in my veins and purpose in my heart.